It's time for Market Explainer, your number one business news podcast. Hosted by Danny and the big man. And it starts right now.
Before we do that, I want to tell you about Big Man Gear. Big Man Gear is printed and delivered to you by Amazon Prime, and it is the big man's idea of a merch brand. And it's neato. So you should go to bigmangear.com. That will take you to the Amazon store. You can check all that stuff out. And we're going to jump into this next story. 5G. Get your tinfoil hats ready. The planes are falling out of the sky.
That is not true. Danny is being
not
facetious.
It's not true, but at the same time, now I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just a guy who's into I'm just a guy who's into pre-facts. Okay, you don't know that they're a fact yet, but in 6 months to 2 years, the TV is going to tell you this is a fact.
There you go. And there it is, folks. There it is. Look, if you've been living under a rock, you know in the last week or so, AT&T and Verizon have essentially flipped the switch to on of the Ultra 5G that they've been working on for years, right?
Correct. Yes.
That everybody has a conspiracy theory about, that it's going to activate, whatever.
Correct. I started having migraines last week when this happened, okay?
That's not true.
And very recently, I have been hearing alien noises.
Those are just the voices in your head.
Paranoia. Okay.
So what this particular story is about is the fact that twice now they've delayed flipping that switch, AT&T, Verizon, for the airlines at the FAA, right? Because there is the particular band that 5G uses, Ultra 5G uses, messes with one single piece of an airplane, and they're not even 100% certain that it would. It's just that it could.
Yeah. So now this is not just Spirit Airlines saying we're not flying because of this.
No,
it's Emirates, it's Air India, Nippon Airways, Japan Airlines, Lufthansa, British Airways. They've all announced that they've changed flights in order to accommodate potential issues with this. Emirates has actually suspended flights into 9 U.S. airports because of this.
Right.
And the entire reason that this story is in today's show is because I wanted to make jokes about
they wanted to make 5G jokes, 5G jokes and whatever. Yeah. Look, this all comes down to money, right? Essentially for the airlines to either redevelop or retweak, it's called an altimeter. Right. And the only time it's ever used, it's not even used on every flight.
You mean
altimeter?
Okay.
I'm sorry, an altimeter. I didn't
know if it was a different part.
No, it's an altimeter. All it does is it sends a radio signal between the plane and the ground so that pilots can use their devices to land in bad weather. So if they can't see the runway, it tells them how high they are as they're landing. Yeah. It's the only time it's used. So if it's good weather, it's not an issue or whatever. Right. And their fear is because the frequencies are so close that some of these 5G towers, which, by the way, the FAA sold them the land to build these towers on 2 years ago. And they've had this 2 years to figure this problem out that nobody did. But the problem is they're all screaming at each other, who's responsible to spend the $1 billion to fix the problem? Is it AT&T and Verizon's because they're causing the problem? Is it the FAA because they
selling
guess
them
what?
The land? Yeah.
Is it the airlines to individual to deal with it themselves?
And listen, none of this, by the way, is new, correct? In the sense that in order for AT&T and Verizon to flip the switch, they had to first go through a auction through the FCC. The FCC has to approve everything. None of this, it's not like anybody could have been unprepared. It's simply that the FAA and the FCC didn't communicate properly with each other. These are two massive federal organizations that didn't bother to go, hey, let's have a little interagency cooperation and make sure that this can happen smoothly. It almost begs the question, what's the point of having regulators if they don't do if
This
they
is
ain't figuring this?
100% preventable. This is one of those
Yes.
government things where
Yes.
it was 100% preventable.
Yeah.
If you or I was responsible for this in corporate America, you
We
and
would
I
have,
would have been fired
yeah.
a
For not
month
having
ago
figured this out.
for
Yeah.
not figuring this out. And it all boils down, like most things, again, to money. Who's
Yeah.
responsible for spending the
Correct.
$1 billion that they say it would take to
Right.
make sure that
To
this doesn't,
rectify the problem.
to
Yes.
rectify the problem? And nobody wants to be that person.
And now we know the truth. They injected the chips, and now the planes can't fly.
The 5G tinfoil
Bird,
hat.
birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real. That's one of my favorites, by the way.
Yes,
Birds aren't real.
that's the best
That's
one.
that's one of my favorites.
And
But
I'm making a declaration here and now on our YouTube channel. The big man and I will do a special conspiracy special exclusive to our Patreon. So go join if you join the lowest tier, and we're gonna do one of those every quarter where the big man sits down and says, "Here are things I think you think," and then I'll explain why they're not a conspiracy, and I don't think some of that stuff because this past weekend, I was up north. I filled in on a radio station for a friend, and it was so much fun. I know that we need to bring some of that content to the wider, universe that we're of content that we're building here.
only if we can schedule guests that actually believe what we're discussing. Like we gotta have, if we're gonna talk about flat earthers, we gotta have a flat earther. If we're gonna,
I know a flat.
of course you do. Of course you do.
I know a flat earther. So.
Danny will provide the guests because those are his circles. And
I can just get on my phone and I can't call any of these people because they put their phone in a ditch. I have to send a carrier pigeon, but I can get them, to a library.
Yes. So we'll schedule it out far enough that Danny can send his carrier pigeons to the people that he needs to go to. Yes.